Greetings everyone. For today's video I was going to sort of ramble on a little bit first about the art that you see in gaming. And growing up I was always kind of a gamer, from the early days of like Atari and ColecoVision, as well as the VIC-20 and the Commodore 64, going into like Nintendo and the Genesis system, Sega Genesis, and then consoles evolved and PCs evolved and all that kind of stuff. So, but I just kind of wanted to ramble on a little bit about that and show you a couple of things that I've enjoyed. So this and this, although lots of games I've enjoyed over the years, these are two of the most interesting things. And with this one, it's like one of the most beautiful, heartbreaking games I remember playing. And it was shocking in a lot of ways for its time, how you were basically a monster hunter. And anyway, I don't want to ruin it in case, you ever play a version of this, but it is just, it's heartbreaking and it's beautiful, and for its time, it is remarkable. But when you needed a palate cleanse, you could fall into something like this. And graphics-wise, I'm not sure if they use like vector graphics or something like that, but this was remarkable. So if I'll tell you the premise and then I'll move on to what today's video is going to be about. The premise is that you're this prince who has this ability to roll up things from a very tiny size. So let's say something the size of a paperclip, and like a snowball could roll them up into, well, basically the size of planets. And this is a remarkably fun game with really awesome music and really fun. So which brings me to this thing. Now, this has been sitting around on my shelf for a while, and I've bought a few copies of this to give away as well, and I hadn't really looked at it. Now, I don't know if many of you have played World of Warcraft. It's a pretty involved game, pretty fun. Let's see, we'll get into this. Aside for a moment. This is a World of Warcraft pop-up book, and anyway, yeah, I haven't really looked at this. It's pretty neat. If you're a fan, you can anyway, if you're a fan, you can have this sitting on your shelf, and you can go through the worlds and castles and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of a neat thing. That is where I'm getting today's inspiration from the World of Warcraft. And wow, this book is falling apart. Okay, anyway, so it's out on the shelf. So what I'm going to do is draw an orc. And maybe we'll zoom in on this in just a moment. Okay. See how that goes, if that does it. If it doesn't, well, that's okay. Actually, let's do something a little different here too. So a while back, I got a couple of these inexpensive pens that have multiple colors in them. So let's use one of these. I'll close up this other ink well. And we're going to doodle this up as quick as we feel like. Let's see what we can do. Often I like to start with the eyes. For my doodlings. That's not so bad. Now, orcs have often deep set eyes. And brows that sort of shield those eyes a little bit from, I don't know, let's say being slapped. Of course, this is just my take on the creature. Maybe his nose got broken a couple of times. We'll give him nostrils, of course. He deserves nostrils. Give him a large upper lip too. Something like that. Now, distinguishing features. For some reason, I like seeing that the tusks in their mouths sometimes might get broken. So I'm going to draw one of them broken there. And then that one as normal. Let's draw this one as normal too. Something like that. This is quite the little pen though, by the way, which I think are kind of neat to just have multiple colors whenever you need multiple colors to do whatever you feel like doing. So if you're just traveling around with stuff, doing doodles, oh yeah, I recommend getting yourself one of these multi-color pens. Something like that there. Let's see. Now, we'll give this we'll give this orc a substantial chin. Maybe we'll go with like a fun kind of scar like Indiana Jones might have. I kind of forget the story of how Harrison Ford got that scar. I might have to look that up after. If you know, dump it in the comments down below. Now, we'll worry a little bit about the eyebrows, but not that much. And much like the damage to this tooth, let's consider that maybe one of the ears got damaged too. And more earrings. Okay, well that's not so bad. Now let's do one on the other side. We don't have to be perfectly symmetrical, but we are going to let this ear be a little bit more normal. And we'll do a different type of ear band there. And comparable, but not exactly the same type of earring on this side as well. So that's kind of interesting. A little bit of damage here, like I said. Okay. Now for fun, we're just gonna zap in some hair. Actually, you know what? Let's do something a little bit different here. I'm going to bring this out just a little bit. See what we can do with that. Okay. I'm going to put a hat on this orc. Now, some of you may find that upsetting to see a warrior cover their head, especially an orc warrior cover their head. I got plans now, see? Plans. Very interesting, very interesting. Now, if you know where I'm going with this, or you think you might know where I'm going with this, fun. If you don't know where I'm going, we'll get there soon. It's just silly. So, as far as PC games go, now, and I don't mean politically correct, of course, it's personal computers. 25 years ago, I was pretty into Counter-Strike. That was always fun. So, like, games like that gave you the opportunity to play online against other people. And that was always a fun way to test your skills. It's where you learned about people who were campers and what a nuisance they were when they knew where all the hiding spots were and would snipe you. Eventually, you knew the maps well enough that you knew where they would be, and then you could kind of sneak up on them and eliminate them from the game. It's also the same sort of time period where people were used to talking and saying horrible things to each other on the internet, stuff that you would never say in person, or that you generally wouldn't say in person to another person. So that kind of stuff was happening as well. And you didn't see that as much with certain things that were moderated. And then there were others where, people would make maps and they'd invite you along, and then they were just, you were open to all kinds of wonderful and horrible things, peer-to-peer wise. Those were also the days of Napster and anyway, Yahoo was around at that point as well. So anyway, so yeah, do you recognize what I did to this orc? Now, let's see here. Let's put a nose ring too, just because. Just because it's funny. Now I'm going to let this be kind of like a young orc. And let's see here. Got yellow now. Do these beautiful little rings as if they are made of gold. One up here. This little band in the ear. Down here with this ring. A couple of these, although they may not come through that well. Let's see. Try this. Now you may have seen this in the book for a moment, or if you play the game, you know what I'm doing here now. Where else would I? Let's do the eyes a little bit in red too. The hat. We'll drift in a little bit of color on the hat. The button on top. Do a little bit on the peak here as well. An idea. Although not perfectly necessary. Not perfectly necessary. It would kind of depend on how you applied your war paint, but it wouldn't touch every part of your face the same. I think that just adds a different sort of dimension to what I've drawn. Now, let's see if we can do a little bit of outlining with this pen. I might prefer to just get out my other trusty fountain pen, but in the spirit of the bunny, we'll see how far we can get with this. You may have heard me say this before about pens. Some of my favorite pens for just having around to doodle with are Papermate medium point pens. They are amongst my favorite. They're super inexpensive, sure, but you can blend with them. You can do all kinds of cool stuff with them. I'm actually a fan. This is the damaged ear. Just making sure that the earrings can be seen a little bit. Throw in a little bit of scratching with the hair there. Do a little bit on this side too. Right now I'm just sort of defining some of the green that I did before. Let's fill in some of this hair and a little bit of the shade that would happen underneath the hat, as well as the hat too. Yeah, I do think that maybe if I want to put more into this work-wise, I think going with some ink through a fountain pen would suit it a little bit better, mainly because I would kind of like it that way. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. It's fun to stumble into stuff like this once in a while. Where you have a little concept that you just want to see what happens. And if you want, at some point, you can just come back to it later on and do a 15-hour drawing on it or something like that. So it makes a sketchbook fun. Now, in an earlier video, I did a kind of a review of this or these types of pens and why I think that they're kind of neat to have around, and I am still kind of impressed with them for what they are. Very inexpensive. Let's do this nose ring. Yeah, honestly, I don't think you need a $700 pen to do art. Sometimes you do get what you pay for, but most of the time it's like it's not really going to make a big difference. But there is such thing as quality, though. Okay. Now I do have an idea for what I'm going to call this. And let's put it in here. Now that is silly enough, I think. Well, I think that is kind of it. Do a little bit here. Fill it in just a little bit. Ooh, that almost became a cat eye there. All right. Well, I feel like I may have, pardon me, may have finished that concept up. I think that's it then for now. There you go. It's a World of Warcraft orc, kind of in the style of Pokemon's Ash. who's a super trainer. Anyway, look, I hope you have a wonderful day. Thanks for hanging out, and hopefully we'll see you again soon.